You've arrived at Unlearn with Louisa, the self-development podcast where we explore the beliefs, patterns, and behaviours we've all unconsciously picked up along the way. Whether it's in relationships or how we treat ourselves, here we focus on unlearning our past to create the future that we actually want. Let's get into it. Welcome back, Unlearners. Welcome to another week at the podcast. I keep wanting to say at the Unfiltered Experience, but we know that is not the podcast name anymore, and this microphone. Okay, welcome back to another week. Okay, so last week we touched on a pretty heavy topic, which is finding clarity around whether or not you're in the right long-term relationship. And last week's episode was about signs and behaviors and feelings that people experience when their relationship is slowly coming to an end. And in that episode, those signs were compiled by me watching other people, clients, myself, friends, family, go through the ending of their relationship and discuss in hindsight their experience of what they would have seen as signs when the relationship was coming to an end. This is a follow-up episode to help you find clarity around what you want to do next. Now, if you've discovered that you do relate to some of those signs that we talked about in last week's episode, this episode is a gift, let's say, to you, because usually this is the type of questioning and the type of things that would be discussed in a coaching session, but I felt that it was really important to give this as a follow-up episode, because if you've listened to that episode and you've related in some way and you don't have the financial capacity for coaching or whatever it is, it's really important that you guys have the part 2 to be able to figure out what to do. Now, if you have related to those signs, this episode is designed to help you gain your truth and help you have an avenue to understand what to do next. And these questions, again, there is no pressure to leave a relationship if you are not ready yet. I will always say that as a disclaimer, as I said last week. Never feel like if you answer in a certain way to these questions or you related to all of the signs from last week's episode that it means I must leave, my relationship's doomed. Not at all. All of it is just information. Just be curious about what that information is telling you. And information is power because it allows you to be conscious. And if you're conscious, it means you have choice. So you're conscious over a pattern or something that's going on that's making you unhappy or that you would like to change. And that thing, having that knowledge means you can change it, or it means you can do something about it. Nonetheless, these questions are some really, really helpful questions to help you understand where you're at in your relationship. Look, if you found yourself at these 2 episodes, congratulations. I just want to say I am here with you. I am sending you so much love, because being in a place where you are in love with your partner or you're happy in your relationship in some aspects, but there's this inner gnawing at you that's not fully satisfied, or something isn't right, or you're not feeling 100% seen or heard, or there's certain areas of your relationship that could be better and it's just not improving. Whatever you're navigating, that you're in a place where you're starting to question whether you want to be with your partner. Getting ready to leave a relationship, it doesn't happen overnight. It's not something that you just wake up one day and you just go, yep, okay, I've decided I don't want to be here anymore. It is a progressive decline usually. I mean, unless some big event happens or you find out about something really horrible that they've done or whatever, usually a relationship breakdown happens over a period of time. And staying aware and staying conscious throughout that process is going to really help you find your answers and find the right avenue and what to do next. When we aren't aware, we can stay in the cycle of conflict that stops us from really, 1, actually changing and improving the relationship, and 2, it also can stop you from getting to the core reason of what's actually going on. Like often I see in romantic relationships, people, they have these like perpetual issues in the relationship And if they don't stay conscious and if they don't do the work around it, they stay in this cycle where they're just like arguing about that sort of like top layer stuff or the top 2 layer stuff, where it's like just about the content of that argument. So like, maybe you have an argument where you didn't like how your partner spoke to you in front of your family, and you just talk about and argue about, oh, I did that, no, I didn't do that, like it's just that content level, that base level. And then maybe there's like a pattern of conflict that happens in that base level. So maybe you speak about how you feel, something about how you communicate triggers your partner off, and then that dynamic plays out where there's like a defense and a case, and everything goes down this avenue and spirals into this argument about arguing as such. And you don't actually get to the core fundamental issue, which is maybe like a communication breakdown or a breakdown in values or whatever it actually is. Staying conscious and aware, what I mean by that is creating a dialogue with yourself about what's actually going on for you and what's going on in the relationship is going to empower you to do what's right for you, whatever that looks like. I know for me, in the breakdown of one of my relationships, there was this dynamic that would play out that was unhealthy. And what happened was me participating in a way that wasn't healthy as a reaction to behavior. It stopped me from being able to actually make the decision to leave, because like I was participating in the dynamic in the same capacity in like a tit for tat way. If you're going to yell at me, well, I'm going to yell at you back. And like, if you're going to do that, well, I'm going to do that back. And there's this really toxic, unhealthy conflict style going on. And the more that I participated in that, the less I could see the fundamental issue in the relationship. And so I had to really consciously become conscious and do some work and go, okay, I need to step off that carousel of tit for tat and learn how to be mature and learn how to control myself so that I didn't participate in that routine, And eventually, once I stopped doing that, I was able to see that, hang on, this relationship is actually not meeting my needs, and I was able to leave that relationship. If I stayed unaware and unconscious and I didn't learn and grow and reflect on my own behavior and, talk to people and listen to resources, I wouldn't have been able to see the truth. So when it comes to figuring out how to leave a relationship, if you are in a place where you're coming to terms with the fact that maybe this relationship isn't right for you and you're in two minds about whether you want to be in your romantic relationship or not, this is the episode for you. These questions are going to really cut through and help you see your truth and see your authentic needs and wants for your relationship. I want you to be curious and be open-minded and be honest with yourself about your true needs and what your true reality is when listening to this episode. Don't sugarcoat it, because we're very good at lying to ourselves, and just see it as information. Do not attach a decision or anything to the answer. Just answer as honestly as possible. You can write it down or just say it in your head, or as you're listening, think about and reflect on what your answers are. And on the other side of this episode, you will have 100% clarity. This episode is just designed to empower you to understand your truth about your relationship. You've arrived at Unlearn with Louisa, the self-development podcast where we explore the beliefs, patterns, and behaviors we've all unconsciously picked up along the way. Whether it's in relationships or how we treat ourselves, here we focus on unlearning our past to create the future that we actually want. Let's get into it. So question 1 is, do I like who I am in this relationship? Do I like who I have become in this relationship? Does your romantic relationship bring out the side of you that you're proud of? When you're around your partner, do you like who you are? Do you like who you've become? Do you like how you communicate? Do you like how you feel? Do you like how you feel about yourself? Do you like how you feel about your body? Do you like how you feel about your brain? What do you feel when you're around your partner? Do you like who you are? What is your relationship with yourself as a result of the relationship you have with your partner? Is it that when you're around your partner, you don't like who you've become. You've become angry, you've become resentful, you've become cynical, you've become somebody that's judgmental. Is there something in your partner that's making you feel like you have to be them or a version of them, or you have to live to their expectation in order to be loved or approved of? Do you like who you are in this relationship? Do you feel like you've lost your fun, authentic, wild side of you? Or do you feel like you have to be somebody you're not in order to please them? This was a really tough question for me to answer in my last relationship breakdown, because there was parts of this question where I really did like my values and I really did like who I showed up as a result of what my partner brought out in me in certain areas. But when I actually looked at who I had become, as in how I spent majority of my time, so like how I was feeling majority of the time and how I was living in existence majority of the time, I actually became this like really angry, sad, anxious person. And although I had good values and my partner exerted had really great integrity and would like never say a bad word about someone, and, really promoted those behaviors in me, these really forgiving, loving behaviors, I didn't like who I'd become in other areas. So I want you to think about, in all areas of your life, how do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about being authentic? Sometimes like we might like who we've become in reflection of your partner's values and your partner's integrity, but how does it feel for you? Do you feel safe to be yourself? Do you feel safe to just completely, no filter, be your authentic self? And if you are that person, what happens in your relationship as a result? Oh, this is a good one I wrote down. So question 2 to ask yourself about whether you want to end your relationship or not is this relationship healing my patterns or repeating my patterns? Ask yourself, is this relationship healing my patterns or repeating my patterns? If you think about your childhood and the relationships that you've had across your adulthood, is there a pattern that you're trying to heal? What is your pattern in relationships? Do you go for the guy that overpowers you, intimidates you, makes you feel like you don't have a voice? Or do you go for the guy that cheats on you and is disloyal and never like fully gives themselves to you? Do you go for the emotionally unavailable person, the person that isn't vulnerable with their emotions, that is like a closed book? Do you go for the guy that always has stuff? Do you go for the guy that's super attached to you, that doesn't have a lot of autonomy? Do you go for somebody that is controlling, is obsessed with you, but doesn't allow you to have autonomy and your own independence and sees that as a threat? If you were to write out, now I'm really doing a coaching session here, but if you were to write out your last few relationships and situationships, and you were to write out what happened, how you felt, how it ended, would that follow a pattern? And ask yourself, is this relationship that you're currently in following that pattern, or is it healing that pattern? And when I mean healing a pattern, I mean, is this person helping you be your highest self? Would your highest version of you choose your partner? Is this partner a choice from fear of abandonment, or is your partner a choice from self-love and the highest version of yourself? Are you afraid of being alone? Is this partner a response to being afraid of being alone, afraid of being unlovable, afraid of being not good enough? What does this partner reflect about your self-worth and self-esteem? How you feel about yourself is a direct reflection of how others treat you. Is this person repeating a pattern of self-hatred or self-loathing or, self-deprecating behavior? Or is this person aligned with the path that you're on, aligned with love, aligned with compassion? Do they treat you with respect? Do they treat you with kindness? For me, I did this exercise where I wrote out my last few sort of situationships and relationships in my adult life, and the way they played out, you could have crossed out all the names, you could have put any of their names in those spots. The way the pattern played out highlighted that I was trying to heal something by attracting these people that I hadn't healed within myself from my childhood. There was a childhood dynamic that played out for me that was exactly the same that was in these relationships in a textbook way. And I realized in that moment, like, how much I needed a break from any type of romantic relationship, because I was at a place where I was unconsciously still attracting something I hadn't healed, and I wasn't doing it in relationship. Clearly, by the amount of times that it happened, whether it's a committed long-term relationship for years and years, or whether it's a little situationship here and there, it highlighted the work that needed to be done for me. And I want you to really get honest with yourself. If you're considering leaving this relationship, what will be different next time? Like, what needs to be different next time? And this brings me to the next question, which is, would I choose my partner today if I met them today? With what I know now, would I choose them? That question for me, when I asked myself that question before I left my long-term relationship, I realized that the answer was no. I wouldn't choose this relationship if I met this person today. And that highlighted to me how much I'd changed and how much I'd grown. And it wasn't that they were a bad person or anything, but it was that my needs are different. My needs, wants, and boundaries have completely changed, and my values. And this person has been such a great vehicle to grow over the last however many years we were together. But what I need now is completely different, and this relationship isn't able to give me that. And if I need what I need, if I want what I want, I'm not going to get that here. And I want you to ask yourself, if you met your partner on the street with everything that you know now, would you want a fresh start with somebody new, or would you go 100%, I am choosing my partner, I love them, and I love the journey that we're on, even if it's hard? The answer to that question is key. It is key about where you're at in your relationship. This is a really good one that I wrote down. If someone treated my inner child the way my partner treated me, would I choose them? What would I say to them? This question is really powerful for high conflict relationships, or relationships where there's verbal abuse or there's nastiness going on in the dynamic. What would your inner child say to you about your partner? I want you to really think about, like, is this person a safe person for my inner child? If the little version of me could speak, what would they say? And this is a really powerful question, because what would you say if your best friend came to you and told you everything that you've gone through in your current relationship? What would you say to your best friend? What would you say to your sister, to your brother, to your mom, to your dad? What would you say? Sometimes, like, when it comes to us, we have a different threshold for what we're willing to accept. But when we see other people in a circumstance, we take the emotion out of it. We're not experiencing the emotion firsthand. We might feel empathy for them, but we're not, wrapped up in what's going on. So I want you to write out your relationship dynamic, or write out what is bringing you to these episodes, and change the name, my partner, and your name. Change it and write it and read it to yourself as if it was your favorite loved one. And what would you tell them? What would you tell them? Pretend it's not you. What would you tell your best friend if they were dealing with what they're dealing in their relationship? Would you tell them this is normal, that's okay, like you just got to push on, do therapy, or set some new boundaries, blah, 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 give them a second chance, that's okay? Or would you say to them, this is unacceptable, this is not okay, you deserve more than that? When it comes to a loved one, we have so much love and generosity to give with our words. We can see somebody's inherent worth in someone we love, but sometimes we can't see that within ourselves. So I ask you, what would your inner child say to you, and what would you say to your best friend? Think about those versions. Think about those people, because your inner child is somebody you need to protect in this lifetime. If you do not have a good relationship with your inner child, it will be near impossible to find good and healthy relationships unless you have already just got a secure attachment. You need to have love, and you need to have your inner child's back. If you don't have your inner child's back, you don't have your back, because you're going to be running and avoiding feeling, creating a dialogue with what your little version of you needs. And I guess this brings back to the question before about patterns. With your inner child, is this pattern and is this person unsafe for my inner child? Is this person reminding my child? Imagine your niece, your baby nephew, or your baby brother. Imagine a small baby, a little baba or a toddler, and that toddler is being treated in the way you're being treated, being spoken to in the way you've been spoken to, being ignored or being whatever is going on, judged, ridiculed. Maybe it's not even anything as overt as that. Maybe it's just, the silent treatment or something. Well, that's pretty overt, but you know what I mean? Like, maybe it's not something as explicit. How would your inner child feel? How does your inner child feel when your partner is dishonest or says they're going to do something? What are you teaching your inner child about staying in that relationship? And if you have children, what would you say to your daughter or your son if they were with a partner like yours? What would you say to them to do? I think I talked about this on last week's episode, but it's such a good question. I just have to talk about it again, which is, if the relationship was to never change from today, if there was never to be any development, if the relationship was to stay the same and to stay the way it is today, would you choose your partner? Would you stay in it? Are you more attached to the fantasy of what your future could be with your partner that you've made up? Like, if the relationship never changed from this day, pardon me, I just burped. If the relationship was to never change from this day on, if this was the relationship for the rest of your life in the form that it is, would you accept it? Would you stay? So many of my clients have talked about how, when my partner does X, Y, and Z, when he says this, like he or she will do this, and when we go on holiday, or when we have kids, or if we do this, and there's always this when something, or when we do therapy, or when, and you know what, some situations 100% you can turn things around, but if there is more evidence from the past that something isn't going to change, that this is going to be the relationship, if the relationship didn't change from the form that it is today, would you stay for the future? Would you accept it? If the answer is no, you've got to ask yourself, what is it that needs to be different? And can that actually change? And what is the likelihood of that changing? How much effort and how much time will I have to invest and be patient for that to change? Is it something we have to work on together? Is it actually possible? Is it unrealistic? Is it a fundamental trait and characteristic in them? Or is it just a little tweak and a dynamic and a need that I need them to respect, and I just need to be seen and heard around that? You got to think about, like, can this thing that I would like to be different actually change? And like, am I asking them to change who they are? Or am I asking for my needs to be met in a way that's like, a little bit different? What are you asking of your partner? What does it bring up in them by you asking that question for them to change? How would you feel if it was the other way around? What is that highlighting about your relationship? This question is like a follow-on. You want to explore what this means. Be curious about whether it's possible, and whether, if you were to find a new partner and a new relationship, is this a deal breaker? Another question is, what parts of me do I suppress or change to be in this relationship, if any? Do you change who you are to fit this relationship? Do you have to suppress certain needs, or do you have to suppress certain parts of your personality? Do you have to pretend that parts of your past wasn't real? Do you have to, not wear certain clothes, or not see certain friendships that your partner doesn't like? Is there an element of control that you have to change in order to fit a certain mold, to be loved, to be approved of? And again, what does that tell your inner child? What does that tell your innermost self about their worth and value? Is this a part of a pattern repeating itself where you're affirming that unworthiness, or is this helping you heal? All of these questions will intertwine with each other. And now I'm going to end with this question, and this one is a question that I actually saw on a TikTok which helped me leave my relationship. I think the girl's name is like Brianna or something. Anyway, she's got like a PhD and she's a fucking legend. But I just, wanted to give credit where credit's due. But her question was, how well do you guys struggle? Do not measure your romantic relationship on how you are in the good times, but how do you guys struggle? What does that tell you about your relationship? And this question hit me in my heart and soul, because with me and my ex-partner, when we were good, we were amazing, right? But when things weren't good, it was really, really not good. And suddenly I was like, life is going to throw us so many curveballs. We were so disconnected when we struggled. The way we dealt with pain and suffering was just so completely different. It was like we were in completely different books. I didn't understand him. He didn't understand me. And, often for me, I found like with friendships and stuff, when I struggled or when they struggled, it brought us closer together. It created connection and intimacy in my friendships and in past relationships. And in this relationship, if one of us was struggling, it was like we were repelling each other. Even if we got along, we just were so disconnected. And that was a dynamic where I realized, if I'm going to have a child, marriage, go through my parents' deaths, go through my siblings, I'm the youngest of 4 by like 10 years. If I go through all of life's colors and this is how we struggle, I'm going to live most of my life really unsupported, not in a great way and not in a way that I want for my future. And, he deserves somebody that could get him in those moments, and I deserve somebody that could get me. And I want to say that to you guys. Think about, how do you guys struggle in your romantic relationships? What does that highlight to you? And obviously when you're struggling, there's going to be stuff, right? It's normal that like things get a bit uncomfortable and it gets a bit awkward and you might have to navigate conflict and whatever. That is part of life, right? But there is a way to deal with things that brings you close together at the end of the day, and there's things that tear you apart. And I've seen it in healthy relating, in clients, in friends, where they go through something and they're able to communicate in a healthy way, and it's able to be this really beautiful experience. It's not injuring the relationship every time there's something wrong, every time someone can't bring their 50% or their 80% or their 20%. It's not injuring the relationship more and more. It's not creating more wounds and more pain and more suffering in the dynamic. And that comes back to that sign in the last episode, is this relationship causing me most of the time or half the time pain and suffering? And if that is the case, what does that mean about my life? If half of my life I'm spent dealing with conflict and dealing with issues and different things in my relationship, like, is that how I want to spend my time? Am I more afraid of being alone than I am of being disrespected? And these are the questions we have to ask ourselves. Like, what am I in this relationship for? Am I here because I'm scared of being alone, or am I here because I love somebody and I choose to be with somebody because of how close we are and how connected we are and how special this relationship is? These are all the bits and bobs. Now, that was a very heavy episode. That was a very heavy episode, guys. So I just want to say to anybody that's listened to that, that's found that very hard hitting and that's really hitting some points, or if you've listened to this episode and you're really happy in your relationship, I'm so happy for you. Please send this to somebody that you think will benefit from it. I believe as women, we often spend too much time in relationships that aren't right for us, and leaving feels so, so hard, and we are often stuck in this thing and it's really intense and we lose parts of ourselves. And, if I can just help one person move out of a place that they don't deserve, or where they're not valued, or where they're not loved in the way they should be, then I have done my job. To anybody, if this episode has helped you, like, please send me a message. Please let me know how this episode impacted you. If you know anyone that is going through questioning their relationship or is having issues in their relationship, send this episode their way. You can say it in a very gentle way, like, hey, I know you've been struggling with your partner. I love you so much, and like, here's this episode, this might help you find clarity. Let me know how this all lands for you guys. Please send me a DM, because I'm really interested to know how you're all feeling. It's hard because these are the type of questions that I would normally discuss in a coaching session, and there's like proper support, proper, guidance and upkeep and follow up on how everything lands. And obviously, because this is just an episode, it's just into the abyss until the end of time. So no matter how long this has been out for, like, please send a message my way if you're in need of support, or you just feel like, you want to share your experience with this episode. I'd love to hear it. I can't obviously do any coaching over message, but I just would love to hear your experience. And if you do relate to anything, or if you find that the answers of these questions have made you realize that you're not so sure about what to do, or you're not feeling like you want to be where you're at in your relationship, and you're really questioning where to go next, I just want to say, whatever comes on the other side of this, you will get through it, and it will get better. Thank you so much for getting to the end of the episode, and congratulations for choosing to create a future that's actually yours. If you got something out of this episode, please share it with someone who needs to hear it, and keep up to date with me by following wherever you listen to this episode. If you haven't already, I'd love it if you could also leave a review. If you want more from me, you can find me on any platform at Unlearn with Louisa, or head over to my website unlearnwithlouisa.com to work with me as a coach. And I will see you at the next episode.